This video is on early childhood lesson planning, part 4 on differentiation. Let's talk about modifications or accommodations. You're going to want to include any modifications or accommodations in your lesson plans for your students with IEPs or 504 plans, if you have any in your class. Label these for the students that you listed in your context for learning. So if you, let's say you have a child with autism, you put that in, don't put their name, but put that into the box for modifications or accommodations, and then write in whatever they are required to have. You're also going to want to include any changes that you'll make for students with specific learning needs, such as English learners, struggling learners, children with attention problems, gifted children who need more challenge. And again, label these modifications or accommodations for the type of student who needs the changes. You must have at least one student that fits into either of these categories. So how do I differentiate instruction? Well, you're going to modify one of the 3 parts to your objectives. Remember that we wrote our objectives in 3 parts with the target behavior, the conditions under which the behavior occurs, and the criteria for success that we expect. When you modify or accommodate, you can change one of these 3 things. So the target behavior, you could use a harder or easier standard. And you can go to a different grade level if needed, especially when you're working with children with IEPs that might be at a developmental level that's much lower than the rest of your class. So you can actually change what you ask them to do. Instead of identifying the main character, for example, you could have them just identify where the story takes place. You can also change the conditions under which they show that behavior. So you could provide more or less support, such as giving them a graphic organizer, a sound map, prompting them, having peer collaboration, using sentence starters. This is where you see most of the differentiation that happens. So for example, if we wanted the student to be able to identify the main character and draw a picture with 3 details of what they look like, we could let them use the book. Or maybe we could talk to them ahead of time and have them explain it to us before they draw their picture. So that would be changing the conditions under which they demonstrate the target behavior. Then the final thing that you can change is the criteria for success. So you could have a higher or lower percentage correct, or more or fewer correct. So for example, we asked for 3 details about how the character looks. We could ask for just 1 detail, if a student is struggling a little bit, or for our gifted students that need more of a challenge, maybe we could demonstrate something, the way the character looks, and maybe draw a picture of something that the character does in the story. So we can differentiate, again, the target behavior. You can make that harder or easier by choosing a different standard. You can change the conditions. So you can provide more or less support while they're carrying out this target behavior, or you can change the criteria for success and expect a higher or lower percentage, or fewer or more correct, or you can make it a little bit, get them to add more. Now, besides differentiating your instruction, you also want to think about differentiating your assessment. Because if you're going to change those 3 things in the learning, sometimes you're also going to need to change your assessment. So think about these 3 things. How can you adapt your assessment for students with specific learning needs? You are going to take one of the rubrics that you created already, one of your assessment rubrics, and you're going to adapt this rubric for your students with specific learning needs. So include the regular rubric and your adapted rubric in your assessments assignment. And remember that you can adjust the target behavior on the rubric. You can change the conditions, more or less support that they get, or you can change the criteria that they need to meet in order to have the criteria for success. So you're going to differentiate both your instruction and you're going to differentiate your assessment.